Okay.
Channel 79, we're on the record. This is the Environmental Protection Commission regular meeting, Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. Old business, EPC 48, 2019, Fletcher Development, LLC, 12 Locust Hill Road, proposing new house construction and related site development in an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 64 as lot number 103-7. The public hearing was closed on January 8th. Members of the Commission, I believe you have a draft of the approval. So, any edits, comments? Excuse me, Jim. For the record, I watched the full tape on the next three items, so I'll be eligible to vote.
I had a couple of observations, if I can jump in for you. On page 2 of the conditional approval, page 2, paragraph 1, Rich, I note in the minutes, I'm just trying to reconcile your use of the word hydroponic separator here, whereas in our minutes that we're going to discuss later, it's described as a hydrodynamic separator.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if those are, I'm
The
not an
minutes
engineer,
were-
I don't know
No, I
if
think the
they're
minutes are
separate.
correct. I was kind of writing from memory, I think, when I wrote this decision.
Yeah,
I think
hydroponic
I-
is when you grow things in water.
That's
Yeah,
what I read.
hydrodynamic.
So that's why that's,
So hydrodynamic
Hydro-
is what
yeah.
you wanted to read,
Yes, yes. Hydrodynamic, yes.
right?
I'm glad you,
And I'll give you these notes for,
that would be the same in the other one. We'll get- we'll get
Yes.
to- Yeah.
as long as we're on the minutes, in there, in the paragraph below that, the size of the parcel, subject lot is 1.022 acres, of which 0.73 is protected from development. In the minutes, you have it labeled as 1.02. Here, you've carried it out an extra
Okay. I can change the minutes.
small stuff.
When we get to the minutes.
well, we'll find out which one's the right one.
No, it's
So-
one,
that's
it's
what I-
1.022.
that's
Oh, it is 1.022.
Yeah.
So then the minutes,
The minutes,
we'll look at that later.
yep.
And I think you mean from, in the third to last line, water courses from the development,
Okay,
I believe.
yep.
And this is just not a substance, more of a form. You want a space on the last page between 7 and 8.
Oh, yeah, okay. Very good.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve this draft? Thank you, Susan. Thank you, William. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So 5 affirmative and 1 abstention. Next item of business is EPC 49, 2019, Fletcher Development, LLC, 14 Locust Hill Road, proposing new house construction and related site development in an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 64 as lot number 106B. The public hearing was closed on January 8th. Members of the Commission have a draft of the approval. Do we have the same issues there with?
I changed that, yeah, I'll change that.
Yep.
You know, hydroponic becomes hydrodynamic. But in the paragraph above that, Mr. Chairman, first paragraph under the project description, Rich, I think it reads better if you, in the second line, the subject lot previously contained as opposed to
Okay.
contained previously.
Yep.
I think it's better grammar. On the size of the lot, same paragraph, second to last line, last sentence. The minutes read 0.89 acres.
Oh,
Here
no.
you have 0.84.
Okay.
I'm not
Double
sure
check,
which
but
it's supposed to
I
be.
think when I did the minutes, I was going by the applicant's presentation. So I'll double check that.
And I think there's a word missing, or I'm having a hard time following the second paragraph. Second paragraph under project description, the stormwater management plan for the 7 lots involved a weir structure in an on-site what? Or on-site, taking out in an?
of the weir structure, and, wetland, wet on-site stream,
Okay.
should say stream.
Good catch.
And last but not least, in the very last paragraph, page 2, this draft conditional approval is actually addressing EPC permit number 49
49, okay. Yep.
2019.
Well, with those changes, may I have a motion to approve this draft? Thank you, Susan. Thank you, William. All in favor?
Aye.
Five approvals and 1 abstention. Next item of business is EPC 46, 2019, Michael Gedney, 145 Old Kings Highway North, proposing a swimming pool in a regulated area and upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 34 as lot number 23. Public hearing closed on January 8th. I believe we have a draft of that. Yeah,
I think
Old
you
Kings,
want
yeah.
to
Yeah, Old Kings.
capitalize Kings in the property address of the proposed activity.
Yeah,
And just some grammatical clarity in paragraph, the project description, paragraph 1, about the middle of the paragraph, it reads, invasive species in the wetland will be, and it says returned to native plantings. Don't you mean replaced by native plantings?
yeah, that would be better, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
So, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Given those modifications, may I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Susan. Thank you, William. All in favor?
Aye.
501. Okay, moving on to new business. EPC 02-2020, good number. Karen Christensen, 9 Windsor Road, proposing a deer fence with a regulated area and upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 26 as lot number 69. Is Mrs. Christensen here or her representative?
They're actually living out of the country, and I did this all kind of either by email, or she was here a few weeks ago before they left. So I mean, I can answer questions, but she did come in, and this is the kind of fence that's like a deer fence or critter fence, they call it, with the metal poles, and so it's not a big structure, and it's part of the yard, but I can't approve it administratively because a portion of it is actually across the little stream, and then, the back as well.
Is that little stream going to dam
No.
when twigs and stuff come down?
It's a small stream, and no, I don't think that's an issue. It should be a minor maintenance issue, I think.
Okay.
The purpose is to keep the deer out, right?
The dog's in. I believe it was what,
Well, I guess it was both.
but it does both.
Yeah, deer fence, dog fence.
Yeah, I mean, I have one, and it's for the dogs, but it does happen to keep the deer out also, so,
Official side.
yeah.
A chicken wire fence, is that?
No, it's metal poles with a vinyl, heavy vinyl wire that's attached to the poles, and then you put just, like staples into the ground to keep, to keep the dog from pulling it up and trying to dig under. If you have a digging dog, though, it's
It's all the way around the property?
No, it's around about a portion of the backyard. They did not want to, they didn't want to do the entire property. They wanted to do a portion of the backyard. Just to have a dog run, basically, a dog.
Is it 6 feet?
Yes. Yeah, that's the
neighbors
max.
are okay with that?
Well, it doesn't require a building permit or a zoning permit to put up a conforming size fence. It's not in the front yard, so that's a 4-foot limit. It's all in the backyard, so the 6 is the zoning, that's a zoning requirement, though. And, you know, if it's on their property, it doesn't require.
So the official deer fence, it's 7 feet, isn't it? Is the height
Often, yeah. I mean, a lot of people like to go 7 or even 8 feet, but, you know, it still will deter them. But again, it's a dog fence.
But at 6 feet, the neighbors can't see anything.
Correct.
Isn't that correct, right?
Correct.
You can't really, in my experience.
You can't see
really
this
see
stuff.
them anyways.
Yeah.
They disappear.
No, we haven't. We had a neighbor who said it couldn't be 7. Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
So it is now 6.
Yeah, people put them up higher, I believe, and no one complains, but if somebody said something, it would be a zoning issue. 6 feet is max.
But this is 6 feet, so they're
Yes.
they're fine.
They're fine, yeah.
Anyway, most deer I've seen, we'll try to go under rather than over. I mean, if they're scared to death, they'll jump and they'll
Yeah.
do anything. Okay, but most of them try to, and the fence is open in the front anyway, so they're just gonna have to walk, they'll walk around it and figure out that it's open in the back, and then they can eat all the vegetation.
Yeah. So this is just for, no, not for voting, because again, I'll have to carry it over to the next agenda. So you don't have to take a vote or anything, but I'll write it up for the next.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, yeah. EPC 04-2020, Town of Darien, Oxford School, 395 Mansfield Avenue, proposing a stormwater drainage pipe in a regulated area and upland review area. This site is shown on Assessor's Map number 2 as lot number 8. We've been blessed with the entire package here. Okay, so.
Introduce the project.
Ma'am,
Yeah, sure. We have to, and there is a pointer out there if you want to use it for the,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, and I'll pull these back.
If you could introduce yourself to the record, that would be awesome.
yeah, cheers.
Oh, it's collapsing in the front here, there you go.
There we go. Thanks for having us. My name's Amy Samuelson. I'm the project manager for the architecture firm. It's the SLAM Collaborative. We're designing the new elementary school on Oxridge, the same property as the current elementary school. And with me tonight is Will Walter from Benesh. They're the civil engineers for the project, working with SLAM. So just as a point of reference, you're probably familiar with it, but this is the existing Oxridge School. It currently sits in a back property behind some homes along Mansfield. I believe it's Mansfield Avenue.
Right.
It is.
Okay. And the property actually slopes from front to back, or from east to west, quite significantly. I think there's 70-foot, pretty significant, 70-foot drop from Mansfield down to the back of the property line. And currently, the school is built as a one-story building, but it's got ramps in between each portion of the building, as you see it here. So this is the highest zone of the building. There's a large ramp inside the building that goes down to this portion, which is flat, and then again it drops down to another section. And in the back there are portables that have been here for a number of years, maybe 20. So not quite portable anymore, but we're replacing those as a part of the project. The new school is primarily going to be built in this portion of open space in order to allow the existing school to be up and running during construction. But we will be demolishing a small portion of each of the first 2 wings in order to build this section of the new school. And that section houses large functions like the gymnasium and cafeteria. academics is all up here. And Will describe to you the site amenities and how it's affecting the little bit of wetlands that exists in the very northwestern section of the site.
Thank you, Amy. For the record, Bill Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benish. So, under existing conditions, what you have is there actually is some road drainage up here that there's a pipe network that comes around this way. There's also some drainage out here that comes around, and there's two pipes. One comes down like this, and the other comes down like that. There's a little intermittent stream that runs this way that's a tiny little pocket of wetlands. Those two pipes basically pop out in the embankment, and they probably sit 3 feet above the stream. And what's happening is there's erosion when it rains. It's causing erosion into that wetland, so not a great system right now. So with our proposed site, we're really focused on two things with our hydrology. One, making sure that we decrease the peak flow to levels that are acceptable to the town. And the second is to take the stormwater and treat the stormwater for water quality, so that when it's released into the resource area, the sediment, the heavy metals, those types of things are removed from the water. Now, I'm sure as you're aware, in your town there's a pretty onerous requirement for peak flow detention. Basically what it says is you need to look at your existing conditions and assume that it's all pervious. And then when you build your site, of course we have all the pavement, the buildings, the sidewalks, that's all impervious. There's significantly more stormwater that's generated for the design storms than if this was actually a meadow. Now, when we go from this to that, the impervious is actually about the same. So at first I was pretty optimistic that we weren't going to have to do anything huge for detention because there's really no room for above ground detention on that site. So what we're doing is, and it's in your packets, is we're providing 2 areas of underground detention. One area is right here. We're proposing, and then there's another larger area underneath the field down here. And the units that we're proposing are concrete underground units. And the reason they're concrete is a couple of reasons. One, that they provide significant volume in them, as opposed to the half-moon plastic units. And the other thing is, during construction, you can set them. They're quick to set, and then you can go over them with your construction equipment, dump trucks, heavy equipment, as opposed to the plastic underground detention. You really have to be careful not to run heavy construction over it. It's a very tight site, as you can see. School's going to be in session while we're constructing. So we have to be really careful about our design of these things, make sure they don't get damaged after they go in the ground. But essentially, underground unit right there, large underground unit here. We've got off to the upper right, actually on this side of the road, there's a development up there that's, 6-8 houses, something like that. That actually all flows down through our site. We've got the area, some of the road flows down through our site. The properties immediately to the east, those 3 properties all flow through our site. So we've got to size our pipes to take all this flow for a 25-year design storm. And then we've got to design our underground detention to basically capture everything, treat it, and then slowly release it as if the existing was pervious. So basically, as it relates to the wetlands, to your review, there's no development, there's no portion of this site that's getting developed in the upland review area other than the removal of these 2 pipes and the replacement with 1 pipe coming from our underground detention system and going over there. Now, the existing 2 pipes come out right here, and the stream's down here. With our new pipe coming in, we're lowering it to come in at that same elevation, maybe half a foot or a foot above the resource area, above that intermittent stream. There's going to be a wing wall. So basically the pipe comes in, there's the wing wall, so we don't need to have a retaining wall, we don't need to have a slope way back. And then we have a really nice, big, beefy scour hole that's made out of large stone riprap. and it's designed per CONDOT standards for the design storm we're going to design it for, to ensure that when the water comes out, it gets detained, treated, and then when it comes out, the energy is going to get dissipated, and it's basically just going to slowly, it's going to slowly flow into the resource area. And so we're going to significantly reduce the flow from what's happening right now, obviously. We're going to treat all the stormwater for water quality, and we're going to dissipate the energy so that when it goes into the wetlands, there's not going to be erosion, there's not going to be sediment like is happening right now. So we're really making the situation quite a bit better. I noticed in your regulations or in your application there was a section about alternatives. And Amy and her group, the architects, one of the earlier renditions, it actually did have development down in this area. For a variety of reasons, that has all been pulled back. So as in regards to wetlands disturbance, upland review disturbance, this is a better solution than one of the earlier iterations. And there were several, and you probably had 5 or 6 that you went through, right?
Right. We were trying to decide, in the early design stages, we were just trying to figure out what would be best for the district and how to develop the land. And one of the thoughts was to keep the building essentially where it is in the end, but to demolish one section at a time, rebuild it, and then climb back up the hill. That proved to be a much longer construction duration, and so this minimizes the disruption to the school as well.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I guess one of your first statements was the amount of impervious surface is essentially equal between the two. Okay. I look at it and I go, I see a big green field down here. Our kids went to that. I'm sure there's a bunch of us that have had kids go to the school, so we're pretty familiar with the site. But I see a big green field down here, which is obviously impervious, and I see that filled up with a thing. And so I see an expanded parking lot. So I'm sure I don't take a ruler and figure out what the impervious surface is. But is that, what am I missing? I'm missing something.
Yeah, it seems a bit odd. When I first looked at this, I thought, okay, we're going to be increasing impervious. And I had my engineers do their calculations. But if you think about it, the new school ends like right here. So all this impervious is now green space. Right? But
The other thing is, and I don't know, I didn't actually do the calculation, but this new school is going to be 2 stories. So the school footprint itself is a little bit more compact than the existing.
Yeah. But regardless, essentially, when we do our calculations, we look at what's going on the site right now. We perform our hydrologic computations, and we're looking at this site right now like it's all meadow.
Yep.
So it almost doesn't even matter, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's
Yeah.
just
I was a bit
some-
surprised as well. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Have you considered, do you know I don't know, so my child's in kindergarten, so I haven't been through this whole system. Does Ox Ridge, do they irrigate the fields?
They do not.
Okay. Have you considered a rain garden or a cistern to collect the water and actually use it?
We do have a couple of rain gardens proposed in the documents. I think we have one in between parking lots, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to,
Yeah.
we really like to try to treat all our water with all our design projects with above ground, natural biofiltration, rain gardens, water quality swale. DEP likes it that way. Most towns prefer that. Unfortunately, on this site, you can see it's just programmatically, they got to get enough parking, they got to separate the bus and the parent loop, got to make it safe for the kids, and they tried to maximize as much green space for the kids to play in that field down there. We could take that thing and put a big above ground basin, then the kids, they're going to have a much smaller space to play. So we have a couple of islands up top that were a little rain garden up there. I mean, we really tried to provide that where we could.
There's also going to be rain gardens type plantings in the courtyard, especially at the lowest portion of the courtyard. The courtyard actually provides an amphitheater seating because it also takes part of the slope within it. So there's a 14-foot difference between the first floor and the lowest floor. So within that courtyard, there's also that slope. So at the bottom, intentionally to keep people away from the glass wall of the courtyard, to keep little fingers and kids running around. We're going to plant that area with some low maintenance and rain tolerant materials.
That's not gonna work, the kids are gonna run around anyway.
Is there anything in the curriculum, other elementary schools do have some type of farm, I don't know what the right terminology is, but some growing
Yeah, they do.
horticultural aspect?
Yeah, they do.
Is there one planned for this school?
I'm sure.
There is one. They currently have one on their existing site, and we've suggested that behind the cafeteria is a great place to put another one. It would be in this zone. It's close access to where their cafeteria is and sort of a farm-to-table approach.
Just curious, have they explored solar at all on that?
Yes, ma'am. There is an existing PV array on one of the buildings now, and the town has, or the school district, I'm not sure how that works, has a contract with that photovoltaic provider. We're also going to maximize this. The array that's on the building today is only on this wing, which was built in 1995, but the majority of this roof will be covered with PV.
So going back to the horticultural aspect, would there be a way to feed a cistern with some of that treated water to be used for those purposes?
For the
This is a
irrigation?
building, yes, correct.
Yeah, in fact, you could probably just take some of your roof leaders and put in a cistern. Yeah, we're gonna have the underground detention, but we're gonna be percolating that, so we're gonna be getting those percolation results back, but I don't anticipate there's gonna be any water sitting there after 6 or 8 or 12 hours. So the way to go is probably to take some of the roof leaders and just put them in a cistern and have an overflow in the cistern, up high, so that it fills up and goes out, but you've got a full cistern. We've done that in the past for other projects, and then you bring in a irrigation system with a pump, and you could certainly do that.
I think that would be a great idea.
Agreed.
Just thinking about the scope of this school for the next 75 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we're all very cognizant of now, currently, and I would expect people to be more conscious in the future.
Can I ask you a question?
So too.
I see in your notes, the whole site is just shy of 10 acres.
Okay.
And I'm roughing out by my eye that large area to the west that you said where you're going to have one of your containment, submerged
Yep.
containment areas, and an area for play for children. If I'm reading that map correctly, then that's got to be close to 2 acres. Is that 20% of the total site roughly? Which is, to me, fantastic. I don't have any children in kindergarten anymore, but all my kids went to this school, and I didn't realize when you started out that from when you enter the school property to the back, that it's as much as 60 to 70 feet. That's why I opened this up.
Yeah, it's
It's
significant.
It's amazing.
It is, right?
And I walked all those ramps and went to all the recitals and did everything you said. I never realized how much of a grade change it is.
Particularly at the
Unfortunately,
bottom.
it's not quite in compliance with today's ADA. The ramp
Right, okay.
slope is a little bit steeper than is allowed. But it does the job, and it keeps students from traversing stairs every day. So they did a nice job at the time. We're not allowed to do that.
I have a question. The diameter of the exit going into the wetland area, what size would that be?
Well-
I'm thinking of things, depending how much comes out, and if you have a 2-inch rain, I'm not sure how long it takes it to actually get out there with all this detention, and do you ever get to the point where it's, ripping out there? after a certain period of time?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. What we don't exactly know yet. We have an extremely aggressive design and permitting schedule, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, I think in June, middle of June, they want to have all the land use permits secured so they can get in there and demolish part of the building during the summer, the two wings. I think it's these two are here.
Mhm.
And then when the kids come back in the fall, they can do all the construction here, and this part of the site can be cordoned off. So we are in the middle of our hydrologic design right now. We have the catch basin that's been graded, site's been designed, we have our pipes laid out, and we're in the process right now of sizing those pipes and sizing these basins. So for this submittal, I believe we're assuming a 36-inch pipe. I anticipate it's going to probably be 18 or 24, but I put in a really huge riprap and a huge wing wall and a huge pipe so that when you permit that, we're not going to go any bigger than that. I think we may go a little less disturbance in the wetlands, but not knowing exactly what it's going to be. Now, we're making a submission in probably 3 weeks, a full submission with a full stormwater report that is getting reviewed by your third-party engineer. So at that time, we'll have it fully designed, and I'll know, but I anticipate it's going to be 18 or 24, and the reason is because we have to detain so much water that we're going to have this huge cavern, and it builds up and up and up and up, and then we have devices that slowly release the water. And so for even a 2-year storm, which is our 2-year storm's the lowest design storm that we designed for. So in the engineering world, it's a relatively small storm,
So what size do you,
up to 100.
okay, so what's a 100-year storm around here?
Well, under
6 or
existing...
7 inches, right?
It's 7 inches. Yeah, it's 7. The intensity is 7. I mean,
7 inches in
7
24
inches.
hours?
It's significant.
Yeah.
It's significant, but I believe I saw our analysis. The 100-year storm under meadow conditions, I think, is like 30 CFS, 30 cubic feet per second. That's a lot of water coming out of there. So we have to when all this is built, a 100-year storm, which you can imagine, that's like a hurricane. Only 30 CFS coming out of there. So we have to have a lot of storage.
So what size are the culverts, or what size are the exits right now that you have out there?
I believe one's a 18 and one's a 15, I think. And what we found with our analysis is this pipe system that comes down here is undersized for a 10-year storm. We've got to design the stormwater for a 25-year storm through the pipes. So this is undersized right now. Now the good thing is, if you were to get a large storm, the water's not backing up into the school. It's just going to be running down, coming through. So, yes, sir.
One last design question. So based on where you mentioned putting the galleys, why would you not put all of the galleys underneath the parking lots and allow the field as also if you're directing the water into the field and filling it with water, it's no longer, it's being used. Whereas if you only have a section of the parking lot with a galley, there's still an area that is not being used that could be used.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you just wouldn't put it all under the parking lots?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it will be able to be used because it's going to be, the top of the concrete slab is going to be probably a foot to 2 feet below the grass. So the kids are playing over the whole thing. But the reason is that...
The existing school.
You're saying you can't put the galley in while...
Right. So if you can imagine,
to remove the school.
we can have basically this flow right here, plus what's up off the road, is all we can capture right there. So if we put a huge system right there, we captured everything, we'd still have all of this ripping down through here, and we're not treating it, we're not detaining it.
What's your compass direction?
North is up.
Okay, so
You're,
go
I
ahead.
think, if you could imagine both buildings on the one site plan, the school will be in session during construction, and so another answer to your question, whether engineering-wise, I don't know if it would work, but just physically, we can't install it in that section of the property.
Right there?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because the existing building will be there.
Well, the other reason that it's difficult this is flat up here, this slopes high to low down here, so if you can imagine, you know, you've got a slope like this, and you've got this galley system that has to be flat. So that means if it's a large system over here, you might have 1.5 foot of cover, but way up here, you might have 8 feet of cover. And it's just, you know, you want to avoid burying it deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's one of the reasons, along with what Amy said, is that we didn't contemplate putting anything right there. And the great thing about this is it captures everything.
Oh, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious, you know, like a Walmart or a Costco it's filled with galleys.
Yep. Yep.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, Rich, now they're going to be reviewed by Craig, right?
Correct.
Okay, so they're going to be peer reviewed by Craig, who was actually a former member of the EPC 8 years ago. And this will be going to public hearing
Yes.
for planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning, well, also zoning board of appeals.
Zoning Board of
They
Appeals.
don't look so much at drainage, but they, you know, they do sometimes get questions about it because, you know, the public can ask about anything, really.
Yeah. All right, so the question I propose to the commission is, do we feel we need a public hearing on this, which is going to deal, you know, we've asked a lot of questions, but really our only area of jurisdiction is over the corner where you were asking the questions about, and the rest of the questions are just not relevant, okay, to what we have to decide. Do we feel we need a public hearing to go forward, or do you have sufficient information, knowing that it's going to be public hearing for planning and zoning, for zoning board of appeal, to go forward and a draft and approval? Anybody, you want to start?
Are there residences along the western or southern border of the property, all that? It looks, I mean, on the
It's a nice house right
picture,
there.
it looks like all
East.
woods, but
There's a
Yes.
designated open space here, just south of the just south of this section of the property line. So from all of this area will not be built. That's designated open space. But there are properties that border along the north, and
The west is Hancock Lane, is the end of Hancock.
oh, okay.
yes.
So, you know, that's a 5-acre piece of property over there that, you know, that receives a lot of the water there. They have like 3 brooks running through them, so.
I think it's an improvement to the wetland in the long run.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, you know, in my personal opinion, I'll get the conversation started. I don't think we need a public hearing. I personally have enough information, and that, you know, Rich could draft up an approval considering what we've talked about. You know,
I concur.
anybody else want to?
Comfortable with that.
Everybody comfortable?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That'll be March
job.
5th.
Best of luck.
March 5th, they can vote on it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is EPC 39, 2018. Michael Gosk, 28 Swifts Lane, requesting to maintain site regrading and stone wall and a conservation easement, and amend permit to allow regrading and wall in an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 50 as lot number 8A.
Keith? Yeah, one. Okay, good evening, Doug DeVesta, professional engineer representing the applicant. I don't have all the plans. Can you share it, please? Just give you a quick overview of what was happened out there. Keith Simpson, the landscape architect, original landscape architect on the project, will be here in a second. This was the plan here that was approved by the commission back in 2018, showing the regrading We have some bio retention or rain garden
Could
areas
you turn the
down.
microphone so it's facing you?
Sorry, Bonnie.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yep. So the site has been constructed. We have Keith Simpson is here now. He'll go a little more in detail with what transpired. But in terms of the drainage, we proposed 3 rain gardens that we're going to pick up the first flush, handle that, and then treat it, and then be piped out, overflow out towards Gorham's Pond to the north through a riprap pad. During construction of this, the lower area being below the stone wall and close to, below the ledge rock and next to Gorham Pond there, they ran into some 4x4 galleries, concrete galleries, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. Looked at the conditions of those.
What do you mean you ran into them?
When they
were there?
They were there. They were underground.
From who knows when?
Right. Probably when the house was built originally, maybe it was part of the septic system, whatever. So Keith contacted me and asked me if we can utilize those versus the rain gardens that we proposed. The volume, the rain gardens we proposed with the grading, everything going towards the inlets there. I looked at the conditions of those things, looked at the volume, and calculated the volume of what were required for the drainage flowing into each of the various rain gardens, and the volume of the 4x4 galleries was greater than what we were proposing originally. Also was going to infiltrate into the ground versus overflowing, heading in a northerly direction, and then point discharging out towards Gorham's Pond. So my professional opinion thought that that would be a much better solution than putting it into a rain garden and allow it going out towards Gorham's Pond there, utilizing the ground for infiltration as well as treating of the any surface water that's flowing into those rain garden areas there. So what they did is they've got this is the as-built drawing here. Orientation, that's what's saying, orientation here. So north, and the plan is to the right. The yard drains were installed. The galleries, a set of galleries were located on the south side there, which are being tied in. The inlet drains are tied into the drainage system there. There is if you've been to the site, we've got some yard drains located by the pool area here. It goes down to an 8-inch corrugated plastic pipe. Right now it just discharges daylight. The reason for that is because they're still working on doing the pool area. It has not been completed yet. That will be, when the work is done, it'll be tied into a series of dry wells closer to Gorham's Pond. Again, that will allow the infiltration to the ground there. So all the volumes for the galleries are equal or greater, much greater than the volumes of the rain gardens that we proposed originally. So that's the aspect of what I was involved in terms of the drainage out here. I'd like to have Keith come up and talk a little more about the grading and what transpired in that regards.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Keith Simpson, landscape architect. And when I came before the commission previously to make changes on this property, I have photographs here of what the original conditions were like. When I saw this site, I felt that it was in need of environmental remediation, environmental change, environmental improvement, much better site planning that it had previously. It was steeply sloping lawn towards Gorham's Pond, and the edge of the slope there was eroding, and having spent a lot of time with environmental commissions and environmental consultants over the years, I've always felt that lawns sloping steeply towards ponds is not a very good thing. Sooner or later someone's going to put fertilizer on them. Sooner or later there's going to be heavy storms and more erosion and so on. So my concept from the very beginning was to reverse the pattern of water cascading off the site into the pond. I don't know what we dug, and Doug and I worked many years together. So it's very easy for us to figure this out in concept. So the plan was to take the pond side and raise that and dig back into the hillside and lower that so that it was virtually level down there, but it pitched slightly back. So there would be no water running off the site directly into the pond from this lawn area. And in fact, it would pitch back slightly into the toe of this slope, and then it would go through a rain garden, through some drains, and then go into the ground and so on. So we were basically protecting Gorham's Pond from erosion and from nutrient loading or whatever got put on any lawn. But we didn't know when we started sort of what was under here. We really couldn't know. I mean, it was just... So when we started digging, we found that we had a big bedrock in there. We found a lot of boulders, large boulders. And the plan showed use of boulders on the slope, showed slabs of steps and so on. It would have probably been better if I had put some boulders on the plan along here to show that we could stabilize this slope with boulders where we to find them. In fact, we found a very substantial number of boulders. And so as we dug down in here, we didn't know how much fill we would have in here or how much topsoil or anything, but when we dug it all out, we sorted out the materials, I think in a very responsible site planning way, and basically regraded this whole area so that it got cut in here, it got filled over there. We had surplus boulders, so we stabilized the end of this along the edge of the pond there and so on. And I frankly was so concentrating on getting that principle right of raising the level at the edge of the pond and pitching it back that I didn't pay particularly close attention to whether it was occurring at this level or 24 inches higher, or I just basically wanted the responsible environmental concept achieved rather than the actual elevation per se. And we wanted to balance the fill. We didn't have any permit to be removing material from the property, so we really had to balance out what we had. And so that really is the change from the original plan to the as-built, is the installation of some boulders, which I think stabilized the pond edge, and the grade came up more than we thought it might, because we didn't know where the bedrock was. But when it turned out, we had quite a lot of fill. So I haven't been on the job since September. The owner just decided for some reason or other that he felt he could work with a pool company or something. So I am not up to date with it, but anything that could have or should have, such as me inviting Rich Jacobson, Dave Keating, or anybody down to the site to show them the conditions and resolve any differences between original site plan and as-built conditions, I would have been glad to have done in a timely way if I had been on the job. But I just, I'm not on the job anymore for whatever reason. The client decided that's how he wanted to proceed, and he decided to take over site work planning himself. So that's really my own explanation as to why there's this sort of difference between what I thought we were going to get and what in fact we have now on the site. So I hope it's not too great a variance, especially environmentally, from what you might think is the right way to handle this complicated site.
Is there anybody else going to speak to that?
Do you mind talking? Sure.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Eckerson. I'm a landscape architect. I'm the new guy.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Sure. E as in Eric, C-K-E-R-S-O-N.
Thank you so much.
So we were engaged by Mr. Goss to do a planting plan for the site after the masonry work had been done. And this issue with the grades came up as part of that. And so what we're proposing to do to help mitigate the additional fill is to increase the amount and the area of the buffer plantings that are going to be located below the boulder wall and the edge of Gorham's Pond. Even though we do not have rain gardens at the base of the slope anymore, we are going to install buffer plantings. It's actually the same exact list of native plants and quantity of plants that Keith had proposed originally. Similarly, the area down below the boulder wall is the same list of plants. We've just literally doubled the amount because there's more of an area now that needs to be buffered. So we feel that this additional buffer in some places is in excess of 20 feet from the edge of the water of Gorham's Pond will be an effective mitigant to the additional soil that was placed there.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if it goes to you, sir, or Mr. Simpson,
Okay.
but I thought I heard Mr. Simpson say that in your initial environmental conscious approach, there was no permit to remove any fill, and so none was, but you found these boulders and you were trying to grade things out. But then I thought I just heard that there's additional fill in there somehow that is maybe worthwhile. Did I hear correctly or not?
Well, it's the additional material that was excavated on site that they didn't realize how much
pulled
was
out of the
there.
hill to
Correct.
level it out.
Correct.
Is that
And
right?
because they did not have a permit to remove the soil from the site, they basically kept the same grading concept. It's just they used the soil that they had, which encouraged some additional height over here to make sure that the water pitched back.
So I got a simple question. Okay, there's the diagrams that we approved originally that I'm sure the original contractor has, and it's there. Given today's technique, if this was 100 years ago, I could see citing it out like this, but given, if people can put sightings down to, my friends say they're 100th of an inch. I don't know if that's true or not, but you would probably know, that being the engineer. And the question is, this is really, it may actually be the right thing to do at 2 or 3 feet or whatever it is. Okay, what concerns me is how did this come back to us? And it came back to us because an inspector went out there, Dave Keating went out there, right? And basically did a comparison as built to what was approved. And it came back that there were, significant discrepancies. I mean, and it may be the right thing to do. Not debating that yet. Okay. The question is, a lot could have been prevented. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Okay. And if someone had gone back to Rich at that point in time and said, "Hey, Rich, well, there's a change of conditions here. Okay. Listen, we found this. I believe, Doug, when you came back and go, hey, I can use this. I can come up with a better solution for the property and for Gorham's Pond. Hey, what do I need to do to get this approved, reapproved, whatever the terminology is?" And I think, and I would have been a lot more amenable at that point in time to say, hey, they discovered this. They didn't know about that when they were doing the original plans. And now it comes back that, hey, you found this, and you go, hey, and obviously nobody thought about going back to Rich. I consider Rich a really nice guy, pleasant guy to work with, Jeremy too, for that matter. And if someone had gone back to them and said, hey, listen, I got something to do. I want to change those plans. Okay. What do I have to do? Okay, because this is a better solution. It is a better solution. You can take advantage of it better environmentally, etc. How come that step's missing as far as I'm concerned? And I wonder, Rich, do you have people must come back to you not frequently, but often enough to be able to say, hey, the as-built was under these set of circumstances. We just found, and we want to modify slightly, etc. And so that's what I'm missing. Okay, it took an inspection to do it. Okay, as opposed to you know, again, because it just, you know, I just now go out there and go, hey, where do I go from here? Because the next guy that comes up here the next application that comes in front of us may have, well, that's just the ones that were approved. Listen, I'm going to build this 2 or 3 feet higher here, do this, and if the inspector catches it, okay, we'll, you know, not ask for permission, but, you know, but.
Ask for forgiveness.
What?
Ask for forgiveness.
Ask for plead for forgiveness. And so, and I'm very sympathetic to what Mr. Simpson said. It's probably a better solution. On the other hand, this is a plea for forgiveness. This is not an ask for permission. And if it had been an ask for permission, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Okay, personally. Okay, but I can speak for myself, not for the commission. Rich, I don't know. How do you come down on this?
Well, there's a two-step process. The work within the conservation easement needs to be approved by the EPC
Right.
before it goes back to P&Z for their approval for their CAM permit, and you would just need to grant an amendment to your permit. So there's a two-step process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, applicants can come in and ask for that, ask for amendments. As far as the conservation easement, I think it was intended to keep people from asking for a shed or a garage or a building.
Okay.
It does say you're not allowed to change the grade without approval from EPC. My feeling is if it turns out to be a better solution in the long run and the planting is wider and better, then, you know, I would agree that it's environmentally better.
I know.
But I can't answer the question.
That's not a debate.
I can't answer the question.
The question is,
Why?
is, you know, gee, and maybe I should, go and, you know, personally thank David Keating for finding this and bringing it to our attention, because if it hadn't been, I just wonder and say, this is a better solution. On the other hand, I'm sure there are cases where, you know, somebody comes up with a worse solution, okay, and doesn't tell us, okay, and it doesn't tell us, and we have to find out, and so.
I haven't had one that I can think of myself, but the department has had, on occasion, worse solutions that end up either in court or having to be fixed. Yeah, much more serious consequences, to be honest. You know, close to neighbors, you know, grades that are way off next to a neighbor's property that shouldn't have been, and they're found after the fact. And honestly, you know, we're not out there supervising.
No, I know.
If we find it comes back to either at a department level or at a commission level. That's why you're here. It comes back to.
Well, we trust the building inspectors to go out and do what they do.
It's not common.
Yeah.
But
So I got a question. I don't know the answer. Who is, gentlemen, who is responsible for signing off on the topography, on the grading? Is that the engineer or is that the landscaper? When you submit the paperwork to zoning, who is verified that that it's accurate? Or is that the purpose of the surveyor?
Well,
The surveyor
I sign
tells
off
you
on the
whether it's
drainage, I
accurate.
sign off on the drainage portion of it, because the grading was done by Keith Simpson, so Keith would
So
have
I
to.
would sign off on
grading.
the grading normally, yeah. And I'm not afraid at all to call, I've known Dave Keating for many years, and I've known Rich for many years. I'm not at all concerned about getting in touch with them, just as you suggest, and saying, you know, we're now 2/3 into this now, and we're finding a condition which is causing a change. Is it okay if I use some of the boulders which over to stabilize the bank? And I would make a case for it as being an environmentally responsible thing. We were always planning to plant that area, so we were always planning to keep people away from going over the edge of the pond. And I would have thought that Rich would ask me the good questions, and I would have good answers, and he would come up with an opinion on it. You know, and if he didn't like what I was doing, I'd think hard about it, and if he did, then I'd say, can we proceed? So.
Yeah, why didn't that happen?
Well,
I mean, because you've had years of experience.
Well, I was off the job.
I mean, you know Rich, you know?
He was fired from the job.
Okay, so that was the reason.
I was off the job from September on, and the owner said, I'll take over site work, I'll do it all myself.
So when was this done?
This was done sort of April, May, June, July last year, so, on into September, but I got stopped partway through, just suddenly got
In
stopped.
September, yeah.
And just like with no sort of wrap-up, and it continued on a certain amount after I left, so I don't know exactly everything that happened.
We've been discussing with, I think Dan Mazabris is here, he's going to be the new general contractor. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got Bruce involved.
Is that you?
To do the
Okay,
design.
thanks.
Yeah, Dan has done a lot of work in town, and he would be taking over and doing the final touch-up on the grading has to be done and the planting.
Who was the excavator and the general contractor on the project? Prior to-
Cambreri Masonry, he was someone that we recommended for the job, and he did all of the boulder work and the step work, and, I mean, we felt we were doing a really good job on that site and a really responsible job environmentally. I mean, I was proud of the work. So I was disappointed to be stopped midstream, frankly. I think it's a very complicated site. It's extremely steep, very complicated. To put in all the steps that we put in, they were on the plan, and we actually worked them around the bedrock. It is a very, very complicated site. And I was brought to it because it was felt that I had some experience, and I tried to apply it on that particular condition. But I did get stopped at a time when I wish I had not been stopped, and then I would have been very happy to, and would have had it on my agenda to get in touch with both Dave Keating and Rich Jacobson and say, this is where we're at, are you comfortable with what we're doing? If I had
But it's
picked up-
before the issue, it's not after the
Yes,
issue.
oh, absolutely.
It's, if you go through there and you go, if you're digging a swimming pool and all of a sudden you find granite, okay, you're gonna go to the homeowner and go, I got granite.
Right.
This is gonna cost you, multiples. This is gonna cost you a lot more money. As a general contractor, you don't go, hey, let's dig it out and then present the bill afterwards, okay, that says, well, you wanted the pool, you didn't, come on. And there's a certain, sense of, hey, when you reach an issue, okay, and you're not gonna be in compliance with what the drawings are, you sit there and go, okay, hey, you go back to the homeowner and you say, hey, listen, this is these are the blueprints here, or the landscaping things. I'm not, we've hit an issue here. These are the various alternatives, and this is my proposal on how we should solve the issue. You don't solve it and then go back and ask for forgiveness. Okay, that's my issue, and that's my issue. So my issue started back in April. Okay, when somebody was out there pushing boulders around, doing stuff like this, knowing that the blueprints were in conflict with the blueprints. They were doing things and stuff like that. I mean, an excavator. I don't know how to run any of these big machines, but I have friends who do, and they're able to dig and know exactly where they are. GPS, right?
Eyesight. Really?
All right, but they're able to pick that out immediately, and they should have known that they were doing something against the blueprint, because don't they consult the blueprints? I don't know. It's after the fact. I don't like to do things after the fact for this. I happen to think it's a better solution. So I'm leaving my criticism as that, okay? Because otherwise, if it was worse, I mean, I for one individual would have a much harder time approving it, okay? And I imagine that the other members would have a harder time approving it. But anyway, so I wish you luck.
Can I make one suggestion? What
Sure.
we'll do, I mean, again, what Bruce is telling us is that he's going to be putting all of the plantings in for the rain gardens that were there. We have the yard drains that were on the plan originally. What we'll do is we'll create the rain gardens that are in that area and still allow them to infiltrate down and go into the gallery system. So basically, at that point, we're still utilizing rain gardens, overflowing into an infiltration system versus going out towards Goran's Pond. So I think that would be, hopefully that would be acceptable to the commission. And I just talked to Bruce about that, and he said that doesn't seem to be a problem. They're not that deep, not that big, so, and putting the plants there anyway. So I think by leaving them putting the rain gardens back in there, I think that'll give us the commission a little more comfort that saying that we have still rain gardens for additional treatment besides the infiltration into the ground, so.
May I pose a question to Mr. DeVesta right there? What you just suggested is do the plantings pertinent to the original plans
Correct.
of the rain garden at
Correct.
the first level of slope, and infiltrate them into the galleries that you discovered, the ones
Correct.
you didn't know were there but looked to be oversized from what you originally specified.
Correct.
So you utilize those,
Yes.
those for the good of the project.
Yes.
Although those are not on the original plan.
They're not, but again,
Get to that part.
again, they're, you know, way the original plan was designed was to have it overflow and head in a northerly direction, just to a splash pad out to Gorham's Pond. So now we won't have a direct discharge into Gorham's Pond, which in my opinion, I think is a better solution. Allow the ground to absorb it, allow it to infiltrate in, allow it to seep through the soils out into Gorham's Pond. So that's just my opinion, and I think it's just a better solution. I don't know how the commission feels about that.
Could I ask you a second question?
Sure.
In your packet that Rich circulated, just for the record, you have a letter of January 16th of this year, Mr. DeVesta, to Mr. Keating.
Right.
Did he reply?
No, I've not heard, I had not heard from Keating on that, no.
Of your discovery of these galleries? So he has been informed.
He's been correct.
I'm really saying that in the interest of Mr. Simpson's comment, that he'd be happy to call Dave Keating and speak to the benefits of this.
I believe it's all part and parcel of the final CO.
Right, okay.
Doug's sign off,
Right.
your agreement to the proposed, what's being proposed.
Thank you.
Well,
I have a question that maybe you can get back on. If you could flip to the other page. There's a large rock pile there now on the east side. East side, yeah, that's good. So on the east side, toward the right on your property line, there's come back down, and then right near the Gorham's Pond, there's a huge rock pile there now you haven't used yet. So you're gonna have to take those off, or you're gonna use those rocks for more?
I'll defer to Bruce here, because he'll be a
Okay,
little more
all
about
right,
it.
maybe I got thrown.
I believe those are going to be used to, around the pool, to rebuild the
Okay, so they're gonna go up there.
retaining on that side.
So that's a pretty tough gradient coming down, I guess you're using that as a road now.
Correct.
So how do you control, and when you're finished with this project, all that water coming down that steep incline heading toward that side where you don't have any riprap set up or any rock piles set up?
Well, I believe, and I'm not involved in the pool, so that's.
Okay. Well, I'm not worried about the pool as much as
No, I know,
that.
but that whole project.
Yeah,
all
coming
the
down.
grading that's
Yeah.
happening down there. I believe that these rows of rocks will be separated more, so there'll be planting shelves in between, which would also help to mitigate the runoff or the rate of runoff down the slope.
Okay.
And there will be planting on those shelves, and then we'll also do some at the base of the slope, I believe.
Okay. I have one question maybe for the commission now. On these environmental easements, it specifically says there shall not be any grade change, and they go on and natural features change. So this was put in, signed off by Palmer back in '76, and set in place. And now we can make those changes and decide, wow, we can tear down that whole side of that hill and flatten it out, and even though it's not what was written into this.
It requires your permission. The document says.
They're still the owners.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we're not owners of the property. What happens is, when you join DPC, you actually joined the Conservation Commission also. Okay, and so we are the stewards of that land.
Right.
So nothing can happen on that land without the Conservation Commission ruling on it. Okay, if the Conservation Commission says or determines that it's okay,
Then we can
okay,
change it.
then there's an agreement between the two parties, and it's okay to do it. If they had decided to do something else with that, okay, and I can remember a couple of instances back when I started on the commission, where it was like, No way. The person came and was going to blow up a beautiful quartz, a boulder that was probably the size of this room, and just drill it down, flatten out the property. It was like, no. And so we have that right. We have that right to do it.
Do we put an amendment then onto this? 'Cause this
No,
is
you give your permission, and it becomes part
But this is
of
the
it.
deed that's filed
Yes.
on the
Right.
property.
Yes.
So now we have to somehow document that we've changed this.
You're not physically changing the boundary of the easement, so
Right.
the way,
But we changed the,
if you were changing the boundary of the easement, then yes, it would all have
Yes.
to be refiled.
And we've
with a
done
new
that.
map, and that's been done.
Okay.
If you're
We've-
giving permission to do something, then the document says you can give permission. So,
I mean, if they wanted to have a dog run on there,
That's how it's been.
okay, that's changing, they could come to us and ask, okay, and we could say, okay, or not okay.
you had a replacement fence not long ago. There was an old wire fence.
Yes.
And you gave permission for a pool-safe 4-foot fence that was a new fence. And you gave permission without having to go through changing the document. So
So
So there's
it's when
precedent
people
for
come in
both.
and say, no, I want to put,
well, structures definitely would.
structures, you sit there and go, no, you wouldn't, they can ask, okay, but it would be, I would be against it personally.
Are these kind of boilerplate?
they're much better now.
Yeah, these older ones are a little more loosely written than newer ones.
Okay.
Okay, and you'll find typically conservation easements come in when we do subdivisions of properties. And so a certain amount has to go to conservation. Okay, and so we become the stewards of that. And the Palmers at that point in time wanted, were concerned that this would be developed in an appropriate way. And so that's why they put.
Keep in mind, in the 70s, there was no Wetland Act. Well, 76 there was, I take it back.
Yeah.
But it was just in the infancy, so.
Everybody was trying to feel their way around.
Somebody might have
what
put
this
a
is.
boathouse or.
As opposed to now, we have much more clear ideas. I mean, the science wasn't even there yet, so.
Okay, no, I'm good. I don't want
No,
to
no,
take
but
up any more
that's an
time.
interesting conversation.
Okay.
All right.
Can I wrap it? I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but go ahead.
I'm going to coattail off something Bill asked, and then please save your question, because it applies to the conservation. Where is that on that map, the parcel that is?
It's within 50 feet of the pond. There's a.
That whole green,
It's a band within 50 feet of the pond.
okay.
So wherever the edge of the pond is, the 50-foot line follows it and takes the shape of the pond.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you. Speaking out loud is, should the commission require the applicant to provide a status of the site as is? A. B, what needs to be done to conform to the original plan? And C, what is going to happen to the future?
You have that.
That is all.
Yeah, you have an
that is all
as-built,
set?
you have,
Because I know we were discussing the rain gardens where we can add the rain gardens, but the rain gardens were already included.
We have the surveyor's as-built, which was used to develop that plan. And you have,
Okay,
yeah,
just want to know.
The new plan.
the new plan, correct.
All right.
Okay.
And now if the rain gardens go back on, I assume they'll just look like the old rain gardens?
Yeah. They actually just need more continuous.
More
I'm sorry, I
continuous.
can't pick you up when you're
Okay,
sitting
sorry,
down.
Bruce.
I'm
Just
sorry.
I think the rain gardens, they were originally designed in 3 separate areas based on topographic information before the excavation happened.
Okay.
So I think realistically, there'll be kind of one continuous one that will encompass both catch basins that are there.
Okay.
The second was there a stone wall added that wasn't previously on plan?
There was a retaining wall that was added up here. I think that's besides the boulder work, this is the only other wall I think that's on the site.
Okay.
Added, to answer your question, Michael, being added
I thought.
as not showing on the original.
It says here, in Mr. Ghost's a letter to Jeremy. It says, "A row of boulder rocks was added along the edge of the property close to the pond that do not appear on submitted plans."
That's
what we're-
That's what
That's
this,
down below.
Yeah, okay.
But
this
didn't,
this was part of the original.
That was part of the, that was approved.
I understand. But I think Mr. Eckerson was pointing out on a wall to Michael's question, closer to the home.
Yeah, there's a wall that was constructed off the edge of the patio up here to create a more flat area.
That's not within our review, I don't think.
No, I think, I was actually referring to both the boulders and the wall.
Oh, okay.
There were new things on the plan that weren't previous. So I just wanted to be clear for the record what those are. I vaguely remember Lucia having sensitivity to the grassy area to Gorham's Pond, and that Doug helped me out, that, or Keith, that there was equipment that was going to be driving back and forth to set the grades.
Mm.
And
Yeah, it's a shame Kelly's not here tonight, because this was a very sensitive
segueing this all
application for
together
her.
is because what's happened is that this area coming to Gorham's Pond is more of a lawn area now, more flat and level, right? And one of the comments that was made that I'm trying to understand, guys, is you have the same volume of earth, and you pull boulders out and you redistribute the boulders, yet your elevation has changed, it's greater. You have to, in my opinion, you would have to have more fill to have more earth to have a greater change in topography. So did fill from the construction site above come down to Gorham's Pond?
No, we didn't. We, that was entirely separate, what was happening in the, along the driveway and that part of the world. This area was like its own separate project, and it was a cut and a fill. So the goal was to balance the cut and the fill. And I wish I'd said back when I was applying for the application, you know, the goal here is to be balance the cut and the fill, and it's probably going to come in at around this elevation roughly, and it ended up turning out what we know it now to be. But I just guessed as to how much fill we might find in that slope, and you know, I guessed, you know, a couple of feet lower than it turned out to be. But I did want the concept to be upheld of the pitch back into the slope, because I felt that was really important to protect the pond.
Okay, just trying to understand. Thank you. Appreciate it. Doug, I got a question for you, just out of curiosity. Is if you're sitting out on the site and you're doing your grading, you got a transit, you've got a couple datum points, you've got benchmark, the excavator's got a guy walking the property with a stick, but you got to feel the grade and you got to see it. What would you think would be a reasonable margin of error? What is on plan to what your actual grade would it be? A foot? I mean, nobody's perfect. Nobody's pulling the scalpel out. But what do you feel? What do you think?
Maybe 6 inches to a foot, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with dirt.
Right.
And these guys are dealing with dirt. If you're within 6 inches, usually you're usually pretty good at that point.
Okay.
I mean, some guys are really good at it. If you're using GPS or whatever, they can be more accurate. But they're just using a rod and a transit or a laser or whatever. 6 inches is probably going to be a good number to work with.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? All right. So,
Well, you're being asked to do two things, give permission, again, to work to change the grades of the conservation easement as the Conservation Commission, and then as a formality, you should just vote to amend your EPC permit to reflect the new plan with condition.
okay, well, you'll draft a letter amending that.
Yeah, well, originally I was just going to say.
I'm not going to judge anybody's vote here, but normally what we would do is say, okay, Rich, write it up. Write up the permission, we'll vote it next time.
I think they're looking to get it in front of P&Z sooner than that, but if, well, I don't know, there's, I'd like them to have the window of the planting season, so I'd prefer you, if you're comfortable enough with that one condition, that the rain gardens, I don't have any of the conditions, other than to, build it right this time, and with the rain gardens added. I wouldn't want to take away their opportunity to get it done before the planting season. It's entirely up to you. The next meeting is March, but there is work they
Anybody
can
have any
do.
objections to approving it now?
I don't have an objection, I have a question. So is this the revised plan then?
Yes, that, again, I had no intention of adding conditions, except now it's been offered that the rain gardens be added, so I would just add that as an amended condition to your wetland approval,
And that they redraw the map?
because it really doesn't affect the conservation easement, the rain gardens. That's a whole separate thing. If they didn't do that, I wouldn't have anything to say about it. If they're offering it, and some of it's within 100 feet of Gorham's Pond, which is your review area. So, but the 50-foot area, I'd like them to finish that before it,
And detail it. I
Well-
kind of like where Commissioner Urban was, where here's what the original, I think it was something along these lines. Here's the originally approved Plan A. B, here's the field conditions we found, and we made
We do have
following
that.
adjustments.
We have that. We have the surveyor's field conditions, and we have the proposed
And so C,
plan.
With the rain garden?
in my sense.
Well, with the rain gardens to be added. yeah.
To be added.
Okay, so there's not, so
The
there's
rain gardens are
another,
already approved.
The rain gardens were already approved.
We're offering
Well-
to put them back in, right?
You're asking for a new
Clarity, kind of
plan.
full, complete
It's a new
approved
plan.
package.
Yeah, it's a revised plan, it's a different landscape architect, it's a revised plan. So it's an amendment to the permit.
Right.
Trust me, I'm not trying to make work, but I am trying to, I think
Set
as
the
everybody
record
might
straight.
speak to,
So
have a solid record of what is going forward, sits in the file somewhere, can be referred back to and accomplishes
so when Dave
everything
Keating goes
that's
back
being
out there, he can
discussed.
say, yes, okay?
We'll
And-
both
you
go
know-
out there and.
What?
We'll both go out there. We'll be, yeah.
Yeah, when you go, call me,
Sure.
call me. So, no, I would like to go out and then see what it's done finally. Okay. Given that, can I have a motion to approve the amended application?
But it doesn't matter what order you do it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what order, so the amended application. Can I have a motion? Thank you. Anybody want to second this? Gunnar, thank you very much. All in favor?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the next next motion is, as the Conservation Commission, we need to approve these amended changes as the Conservation Commission. Is that okay, Rich?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve these amended changes? Right, thank you, Susan, thank you, Gunnar. All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Agent approval. No action is necessary unless the commission receives an appeal of the approval within 15 days of the publication date per section 12.2 of the Inland Wetlands and Water Course Regulations. EPC 3, 2020, Dwayne and Elizabeth Morgan, 35 Hamilton Lane, proposing an addition within an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 10 as lot number 34. Okay, everybody have that?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or questions for Rich? All I know is, that's a pretty wet area, Rich.
Yeah.
That's a, you know, that's
It's all lawn, but it's all lawn right now. So.
I know, but I was gonna say, any basement or anything like that is going to, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
Only 2 Coltex would be required for that much addition?
Yeah, we do it kind of seat of the pants. We use the manufacturer's recommendation. I can have that reviewed, but.
I would.
Yeah, okay.
2 280s is small.
Yeah. It's only the increase and not the whole
Are there
property.
Are there existing,
No, this was
so there's nothing?
detention.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so,
So can we,
yeah.
can they just have an engineer spec out?
No,
Yeah, we have the
That's not-
1,000 square foot, requirement. Above that as an engineer, but I
Oh,
can
okay.
certainly have them document it.
also, I note that the soil, the auto fill was out there in 1999. Given this is 20 years later.
Yeah.
No, that's not a problem?
No, I mean, you do have more rain and more wetness, but that's not enough to create a wetland condition.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the soils have to be, it's a geologic feature, basically. It takes long time to develop those characteristics of a wetland.
Okay. Anybody
But
want
as
to?
Eric pointed out, it is wet back at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's brutal.
And, yeah, it's wet.
This is Google Maps right across the house.
Yep. Yep, I know.
I mean, keep it,
I grew up
on
on
a lot of these
Oh, did
lots,
you?
there's
So I know
there's
every
very
brook.
little
I know every brook.
infiltration naturally. So even when
No.
even when you put
Google Maps
impervious
is fine.
surface on a wetland lot, you're not getting infiltration anyway. So
No.
it's almost the same as if it's running right off.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's, it's a tough,
I'm
that's
a little
a
confused.
fairly tough area.
Because we did Gadney's, and he was going very close to our zone. We made him put all these extra deals in to kind of make up for
No,
his.
he offered to put them in.
Okay, oh, he offered, okay, we didn't make him do it.
No, we didn't, no. We didn't make them,
Okay, so in this case, it's back 70 stuff or whatever, 60, but he's very close to it. So we really don't require anything for, he's being that close
I'm sorry, close to what?
to the wetland zone.
I make a distinction when they've been maintaining it as lawn they have a natural area off to
Right.
one side, and this is basically the
No,
backyard.
and I saw it was lawn too.
Yeah, it's their backyard.
Okay,
It's-
so I guess I'm comparing
it's
it
not-
wrong, because the other guy was on lawn too,
Well, you mean the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did offer to compensate for working in the wetland, and they offered a kind of maybe above and beyond what
But they have to offer it
but
up in a case like this. We can't say, you're
It's
too close,
tricky.
do a little
If it's
something.
in the wetlands, you could make a finding that it's
Okay.
adversely impacting the wetlands just by virtue of putting a structure there and permanently eliminating it. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm just
Yeah,
curious. It
but if
seems
it's,
like
it's the difference between being in the upland review area
Okay.
and being in the wetland itself.
Okay.
And, I think it's just a good practice to require mitigation, and the fact that they, on the pool, they offered the significant, multiplier of area to restoration.
when the guy presented, he even said, we don't have to do this, but the client wanted to.
Same.
And so it's always like, okay, it's like you buying me dinner. Okay, you're buying, okay, so if he offered it, and
Oh,
and
sure.
that was part of the.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No, if he had withdrawn that, we would have had the conversation, but it was nothing that we requested.
I'm a rookie guy. I'm still asking.
So, okay, we'll move on to other business, minutes of January 8, 2020. Anybody have any questions or comments?
We covered the ones I brought
Yeah.
up earlier, I just had two typos.
Okay.
for Rich.
Yeah.
Just them out in front.
I'll look at the survey and double check the areas of the lots, but I think the resolutions are correct, and I'll change these if
We
necessary.
can just go on the tax assessor map.
Well, I'm using the survey, the actual survey,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything? No? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, William. Thank you, Gunnar. All in favor?
Aye.
No, you can't approve because, yeah, so it's 4 approving, 2 abstaining. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one is every year for you, Bill, every year we're required to elect officers. We elect 3. We elect the chairman, vice chairman, and a secretary. Secretary actually used to have to take notes, et cetera, but it's now become in case the chairman and vice chairman aren't around, okay? And so usually, if you're not here, you get stuck with it. Okay, but obviously, as to the election of officers, I'm not sure how we want to do this.
I think one slate.
One slate?
One slate.
Okay,
Is
because
what you
I
usually
certainly
do.
would like to be chairman again, okay?
Do we need to nominate?
Yeah.
Someone
Do
that's
we need to
nominated?
go through the whole nomination, or just nominate a slate?
I think you nominate one slate
Okay.
and then vote on one slate.
Okay, so I'd like to be, Jim, would you be up for being vice chair again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, breaking with precedent, normally we'd stick Kelly with it because she's not here. But would you like to be secretary?
I think I'm next up on the biological list.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So we have our slate. May I have a motion to approve the slate? Thank you, Gunnar. Thank you, Bill. All in favor? Okay, done. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was fastest ever I've seen. That's beautiful. I love it.
Only Washington.
Yeah. It's a beautiful world there.
Okay, now we'll do this even faster. I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, William. All in favor? Thank you very much. Good night, Channel 79.